Hello, my name is Tia, also known as Costumed Fiend, because I am both evil and excessively fond of dressing up. I think I want to aim for uploading things on Sunday evenings, my time, just because it's like a start to the week kind of thing, and like I said, this is supposed to be about sleeping. um, but yeah, for this audio, I decided I wanted to talk about The Crow because I came across a video titled "Stop Remaking The Crow," and it got me thinking about the things that I liked about the 1994 film. Full disclosure, I have never read the Crow comic. I just know basic trivia, and while I am not always opposed to remakes and reboots, if I feel like they're done with intention and care or they offer a fresh point of view, I pretty much don't have any interest in watching the new version of this franchise for a number of reasons. Right now, though, I'm going to stick to talking about the thing I do enjoy. I watched this movie a few years. I watched this movie a few years back for the first time. I'd heard about it before, and I think it first entered my consciousness when I remember Jason Momoa dressed up as Eric Draven. I think maybe for a photo shoot, or they'd initially planned on remaking it with him. But I've always had a bit of a thing for goth adjacent characters and guys with long hair, so that kind of combined both of those things, and that got my attention. However, I also tend to take forever to get into new things sometimes, and to be fair, this movie came out the year I was born, so there was a lot of things I had queued up before I intended to watch it. Plus, at some point, I think I became aware of the plot, and maybe at the time I wasn't in the mood to watch the fridged wife girlfriend trope again, but when I finally got around to actually watching it, it reminded me that sometimes a trope can be done well, and that sometimes what's annoying about it is usually how shallow it is. In The Crow, Shelley's death and everything that follows are in part a way for the author of the comic, of the original comic, to process his grief. In many action movies and revenge flicks, the dead wife truly feels like a plot device, and you can almost see a writer or executive just ticking off a box when it comes to that kind of thing. But in The Crow, death and grief are kind of the whole point. It certainly doesn't hurt that Eric Draven isn't the standard action movie protagonist either. In life, the guy was an artist, and even in death, when he's on a revenge rampage, he still manages to make time to look out for and protect a little girl that he and Shelley had been somewhat surrogate parents to, due to her own mother's neglect. Eric isn't forced to care about Sarah over the course of the story because he already cared about her from the beginning. Honestly, if you want to endear me to any character right away, especially a male character, have them be nice to children. I remember when I started rewatching One Piece from the beginning last year, I distinctly remember thinking about how Zoro's introduction endeared me to him pretty much immediately because of what he did for a little girl and her mom, and the same thing happened with Smoker. I love the gruff, reluctant father types as much as anybody, but if I had to choose between one trope or the other, I'd probably pick the former almost every time, and we won't be examining any of that. In fact, we're going to move on to another thing I like about Eric as a protagonist, and that is even when he's completely free of any earthly obligations towards politeness or decency, he still decides to be a bit whimsical and isn't just nice to Sarah the same as he was before. He also doesn't go out of his way to be an asshole to Sergeant Daryl Albrecht. I can't remember how that's pronounced, but it's a small detail. But given that the sergeant is one of the only black characters in the film, the other being one of the criminals, it matters to me. A lot of movies, even from the early 2000s, have made me cringe on the rewatch because of the way black characters have gotten treated, but not so much on this one. My feelings about cops aside, Ernie Hudson's character holds up well enough. Now, at this point, I'd be remiss not to talk about the fact that Brandon Lee is a big reason for all the positives about the character. People far more eloquent than me have talked about the tragedy of this being his last role, and there's definitely something very ironic about the themes of the story and the accident that played a role in making this film what it was. My heart always goes out to people most affected by these kinds of things, and I can only hope that the crow existing at all isn't too painful for them. There's pretty much no art I can think of that matters more to me than the real people that may be negatively affected by it. That being said, I do think the finished product is still something worth being proud of, and almost because of that, it resonates still. Most action movie revenge flicks in general don't hit the same, and this movie's atmosphere is also a huge part of that. Like, sure, the John Wick universe, for example, has some potentially interesting world building, and we can all agree that many of us would go apeshit over dog murder. However, in terms of what feels more meaningful and down to earth, I would say the issues of gentrification, violence against women, and the whole Gotham City on cocaine thing The Crow has going on kinda wins, at least for me personally. That, and you can actually see what happens at night. Love watching older movies where you can see night scenes. It reminds me that it can be done. The final thing of note I wanted to mention was the ending. With revenge movies, there are many directions you can go, but I enjoy how almost gentle The Crow finishes. Eric is tired after his final fight and murder and goes back to the gravesite where Shelley shows up and they meet again. It's a really nice contrast to all the violence that had just occurred, and you really get the feeling they can finally be at peace now. Just like how I hope you can be at peace and feel sort of sleepy after listening to this. Great transition from me. Anyway, if you like this, like it, and remember, it can't rain all the time.